You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today in studio, we have the stars of steak, the brothers of beef, from NanaSteak in our backyard, Durham, North Carolina. Here are the brothers Weddington, Brad and Graham. Welcome, gents.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having us on.
Very cool. Well, Brad, Graham, I just met you guys recently for the first time a couple months ago at the Angus Barn, and that was a fun little endeavor straight off from there. I think what were we doing there? It was a food event.
It was.
It was the NRA that they were helping raise money for the National Restaurant Association.
It was the NCLRA.
I know. Well, I saw the NRA too when I first did it, and I was like, "What are we going to right now?"
You're talking about the National Restaurant
National
Association.
Restaurant Association.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope I get invited
But they
back
did
next
hand
year.
out
Different
rifles,
kind of
which
NRA.
was interesting. It totally didn't make
Nice
sense,
part.
but
No,
yeah. But there we all kind of were chatting about the industry, and we were chatting about just the goings on of the what's happening out, and I really wanted to continue this conversation, and Matt's like, yeah, of course. The guys from NanaSteak, they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time, so why not have them on the podcast on this Thanksgiving featured episode that, as a point of reference, we've had Chef Scott Howell on the podcast back in the day with Aubrey Zanach. Am I saying that correct? And
More or less, yeah. That's pretty close.
Okay. And we talked about Nana's and his story, and he's been, just a figure in the culture, the food culture of the Durham area, but also kind of like a sports reference. He's like a head coach with a long tree of other coaches that have gone on behind him, but those are chefs in turn of coaches. But you all, I mentioned it because you all kind of started working with him that then led to opening NanaSteak. Is that, in a sense,
You are
correct?
the offspring of Nana's.
Yeah, I mean, that's safe to say. We were there before we opened NanaSteak. I mean, I was there 12 years almost.
At Nana's.
At Nana's to the day. Like,
Oh, wow.
I only missed it by a week before I kind of left there to go put together all the tables and everything over at NanaSteak. And Scott's got a long tree, long branches anyway. And it's because he's got this brand of it's like tough love. I mean, he gives you what you need to do it, and he lets you give it a shot, and then he teaches you along the way. And it's tough love, but man, by the time you're done, you have a way better idea of how to function and
You
do
know
all these
where you
things.
stand.
Yeah.
Before we move on, or before we get deeper into that, I'll have to say, because he might be listening, and I'd be remiss if we didn't say that Scott Howell is probably off the Ben Barker tree. Would that be fair to say? If we're talking coaching trees or chef trees.
I mean, I think it's probably maybe a lower form of the same branch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, right.
But definitely, but Ben Barker for sure, and then Scott came along and helped kind of create. I think what I've always heard too is like with Magnolia Grill, that Scott basically was like, hey man, why don't we do some food in the bar? Like, let's do some things where we can actually get casual people to kind of come in. So I think they helped kind of evolve it together. But Ben's certainly the godfather of it, but Scott's right there. I mean, he's right underneath it too. So yeah,
right on. I think that's true. So yeah, so 12 years to the day. Were you there? Were you there just as long? And I'm talking to Brad when I asked that.
I was there for maybe a couple months after Graham started, maybe 2 months after, and I actually started bartending about 6 or 8 months into it.
Okay,
started off as a back wait, kind of trying to work my way up, then started bartending there, and then he came along in that bar a little bit after that, and we just kind of took it over and ran from there with it.
And before that, you guys are from New Orleans, right?
That's right.
What brought you this way?
It was a long, circuitous route from New Orleans to here.
Circuitous.
I mean, it was Louisiana to Chicago, where we lived in Chicago for 3.5 years, and then Atlanta for a year. But I mean, before we moved to Atlanta, we knew that in 2 weeks before we moved to Atlanta, we knew that in about 9.5 months we were moving to Raleigh. So it just kind of...
Our parents worked for IBM, so
Gotcha.
RTP, kind of the creation of it, we came when everyone else did,
Okay.
early 90s.
Oh, okay. So you've been here for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they all moved back. Our family's back down Louisiana, Mississippi area, and so we go back down and visit them, but we stayed up here.
Okay.
Yeah, just because it's, I don't know. I mean, at first, I think when you moved to North Carolina, especially for us when we came, no one was really from here. I don't know, it kind of had a weird feel, but it was this kind of neat little melting pot of everyone coming together. It's one of the few places that we ended up moving to where everyone was in the same position we are, because we moved around so much. And so everywhere you go, everything's kind of ingrained, and family's been there for a long time. This is the first place you come to where everyone was kind of in that same boat as we are, moving with RTP and all that coming along. So it felt kind of weird, and you always thought, it's like, I don't know, North Carolina, like, it's great because you have the mountains and the beach and all that, and talk about it. And then it's not really till you realize and you start going back to other places where you're like, oh, this is
this
it's a pretty
really good
incredible place to live. Yeah, we're pretty fortunate, actually, to be here. So.
I mean, and for the record, all of my friends in high school, they hated it. Like, nobody could wait to... it was like, as soon as we get out of high school, we're going to college somewhere else. As soon as we get out of college, we're going to move somewhere else. Like, we can't wait to get out of North Carolina. And now everybody's moved back. I mean, like, everybody's back. It's pretty awesome. I mean...
But so for two brothers to, like, for one, to, like, live together and then also to work together, you guys worked together for a dozen years at Nana's, essentially?
Well, we even worked together. I started in the restaurant industry at this place called Cactus Flower, which is by the same owners of Margot's. It's behind Crabtree Valley Mall.
Oh, yeah.
I started there when I was 17. I mean, I worked at, like, Pizza Inn before that, but he was already there. So
Oh, wow.
really, we didn't work together for about a year. So really... I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to curse when I say things. It's hard.
You can
I realize
curse.
how much to do it.
You can curse, it's a podcast.
But just that we've probably worked together, I mean, for about 20 years now.
At least.
Wow.
Maybe 100 years.
It feels like a long time.
And does it just feel like this is just normal because being family and being that, like, you just grew up together, that working together is natural?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always felt growing up that that's what, like, our families were always really close, like grandparents, cousins. I thought everyone spent every weekend with all of their uncles and cousins and grandparents. I just thought that's what you
in the
did.
kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're just always hanging out in the kitchen.
It just seemed like that, and it wasn't until we really kind of moved away from that where you realize that, oh, no, like, that's just, it's kind of
that's
different.
our
Like, that's
family.
actually what our family, and everyone's different, And then so for us, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've just always done it together, and it's never been, we get along super, super well, super easy, and it's...
A lot of unspoken communication, too.
Yeah,
right?
bet.
I mean, we can look at each other across the restaurant and be like, and then I'm like, which of those three things does he want me to do? Because there's three things, right? But we get it. I mean, it just
Certainly
kinda
not
works.
to say, like, we haven't had those moments,
Oh, sure.
But I think there was a point when I probably got to be like 16 or so where the physical part of it just started coming out of the relationship because it just started to hurt him too much. So we learned.
wait, so
we
he's the
learned.
older.
He's
Brad?
the older. Yeah.
Graham, you're the older.
Yeah.
But Brad's like a foot taller than you.
Well,
Yeah. Like
Rough.
a
yeah,
foot and a
I'm
half-ish.
like 6'4",
Yeah.
so
That's including mustache. Though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be great too. I'm a younger brother myself, but my brother is taller than me and all that, so it's
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
all right, whatever. But you guys being like from New Orleans, you just saw like what the Mannings did, and you figured, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. It's the family business, except for we're not going to play football. We'll just sling drinks at restaurants.
I'd probably be more like Peyton then, I guess, which is weird because he's the older one.
I'd
You
like
can
to think
definitely
it's
be
more
Eli.
like the Mannings kind of saw us, and they were like, you know what, this can work. This can
Right.
totally
Yeah.
work.
We can
Let's
be a
do this.
family.
do you have a
That's
third
it.
brother that no one knows about, like the Mannings as
We
well?
have a sister, and she's tougher than both of us,
Yeah.
right? So we just kind of we just every once in a while she'll chime in, and we're like, yeah, you got it. All right, sure, we'll do that. Yeah.
There you go. Did you know, by the way, I'm sure you guys know this, that Cooper Manning, who's
Yeah.
the third Manning that nobody knows about, his son is apparently like the next big thing quarterback-wise in high school.
Oh, really?
I
So
follow-
it's like the next generation will carry his mantle.
No, he's young. I think he's a freshman, but I follow LSU recruiting super hard.
Yeah.
and they're all over him all the time. Like
Yeah.
he's starting. He's ridiculous.
Well, and even then,
He's
and they
great.
they talk
Joe
about
Burrow will be gone by that time, so.
I
Joe
know,
Burrow
it's
will
a
be
sad
gone by.
Sad
thing.
thing.
by
That's
next
all right.
year.
He'll have a national championship under his belt, so it'll be okay.
Just so the
Oh,
listeners
bold
are
statements.
aware.
And a
Hold
Heisman.
on. This is a Thanksgiving episode. We're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving towards the end of this episode. We're also going to give some football picks, too, because one of the things that we discussed at the Angus Barn was our love for fantasy football, for the real NFL, college, whatever. But hold tight, everyone. I know if you're listening, you want to get your football picks in, you got to wait till the last few minutes of this episode. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But football is part of Thanksgiving, so we will talk about it there. But yeah, let's take it back to Nana's for a second. So you guys go there. You weren't really like restaurateurs at this point, or like cocktail makers.
I mean, at that point,
you kind of learned it all there, right?
Yeah, at that point, we had both been in the business for a little while. I mean, I think.
Oh, you had?
Yeah, I think I'd been in the business for 7 or 8 years. We had I started at Margot's, training at Margot's for the job at Cactus Flower, which hadn't even opened yet. And then I was there the whole 5 years they were open, and closed the doors. I was there the last day, and then we worked at 518 for a little while together.
518 Main, that was in Glenwood, right? Mm-hmm. That was kind of an Italian-style restaurant?
It was. They have some restaurants. It's Chapel Hill Restaurant Group. They have some restaurants out in Chapel Hill as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's Squid.
411 and all that. And then we were there for a few years, and we had a buddy that worked over at Nana's and was like, why don't you guys come on over? And I was like, man, it's a far drive. I'm kind of lazy at the time. You know, I lived right next to 518. It was just like, just didn't really have to do that much work for it.
Yeah.
And then we went out there. I think I had a double at 518 where I made like $91, and I was there for 14 hours, and I was mopping the floor, and I was like, there's got to be more to it than this. This is rough. And sure enough, there was more to it.
Yeah.
And it was great.
So your work relationship with Scott Howell obviously seemed to be fairly strong, because you guys were, while he was in the back of the house, you guys were in the front, and you were holding it down, locking it down. Whose idea was it to come up with a steakhouse? Being that Nana's already is a very traditional kind of where you take your family to holidays and anniversaries, and it's a pretty standard, fantastic restaurant. But it hits all the main points of what you call a quote unquote fine dining restaurant.
That was a giant collaboration. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of talking about that, and a little bit of that also was just trying to fit the space that hadn't been built yet, but was kind of that NanaSteak space. I mean, there's not really. There's Metro 8 down in Durham, but there really aren't that many steakhouses down there. Yeah. And we just kind of, for one, we felt like we fit a niche that would be nice. We felt like we could achieve some fine dining, which we wanted to do, because we want to stay in that vein. And then
and for those that don't dine in Durham very often, it's not a chainy style
not at all.
Restaurant scene at all. I mean, I can't even think, other than like the McDonald's that's downtown, what is a chain that exists in Durham. I mean, I know there are some, but nothing really comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, American Tobacco's got a couple things in there, but other than that, I mean, it's really, Durham very much protects itself. I think it has a chip on its shoulder.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's like Mellow Mushroom, which is also a chain.
Right, you have like Mellow Mushroom. There's a Moe's that's down there too.
Yeah.
But I think that it's more that, Durham really supports Durham. I mean, they support the upcoming chefs, and with Scott and Ben starting this tree, I mean, it's been chef run and all, and then with the success of Matt Kelly, and those guys with all those different places.
He was sitting in your seat last week.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
we
For
got
the
to see him.
listeners,
Yeah,
he'll be on next week.
I saw him on Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's less chains and more the beginning of kind of what looks like empires, right? I mean, you've got Matt Kelly with his restaurants. You've got Mike Lee with, with M Sushi and all those
and
places.
The Pizzeria Toro,
right?
Grant,
You've got those guys.
Not Graham.
Gray
Brooks, yeah.
Right. So,
so whose idea was it then? Did you guys go to Scott and be like, "Hey, I heard about this spot coming up. I want to go there. I want to do a steakhouse," or how did what was the genesis?
We had kind of gotten approaching. We got approached about doing.
Is that a Cajun term?
It is.
Approaching.
We got approaching.
we got that approaching there.
It's all words, man. As long as you can just understand some of it, then that's pretty good. We got approached about maybe doing something else, and even coming out to Raleigh and working for some big things. Really, some of Ashley Christensen's groups.
Okay.
And what was neat, I mean, it was really, we had been talking for a little while before that.
That's called a poaching.
Well, it's a gentle nudging of
we had mutual friends within the restaurants,
and
right?
even before then, we had looked at some other spots in downtown Durham. And around, and it's funny, you always think you're ready to open up and do that next step until you have to sit down with someone and talk about all right, well, financials and this and business plan and all that stuff, and you're like, oh shit, like I don't know anything. Like you have a conversation with your space, you're like, awesome, we'll take it. And they're like, well, there's more than just you saying yes,
This
you know, like you actually
footage,
have to do this, and there's all
build
that.
out the FFEs,
Well, it's more than that. It's like, what kind of restaurant you want to do? They're like, you're like, yeah, I definitely want to do a
Yeah, we
restaurant.
definitely want to do it.
We want to serve food.
It's the next step, right?
We'll have a bar.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had been looking, you know, because we had really been interested in kind of what that next step was, because we really felt, you know, like at Nana's, and it was great. I mean, there are a lot of things, but it's its own kind of thing. And so we had been, especially in that bar. I mean, I'd been Durham Magazine's Bartender of the Year, you know, I think 4 out of 5 years, and he was the server of the year 5 years.
Nice.
I know. I missed
Cool.
one of them,
awesome.
so I still get crap from that. I got the silver. So that was a fun year for dealing with that.
I wonder what that felt like. I don't even know what that feels like
was
to get
great.
silver.
It was great. But so you know, we had been, and for us, it was just like, all right. So you know, we both have families. My kids are a little older at the time, but it's like, all right. Well, so what's this next step? Like, what do we? Are we in this? Is this the restaurant thing? Like, is this what we're going to do? Are we going to push forward and kind of make things happen? Because we knew we were good at it. You know, it felt good. It was just about trying to figure that out. And
But you've been doing it at that point for 17 years, and it's like,
right.
you know, there's got to be something more because you've kind of reached the pinnacle of your talent.
Correct. Yeah, 17 years, still fairly young. I mean, I started at Nana's when I was 23.
Yeah.
You know, started bartending there. But hey, we got this energy. Let's do it. Like, what? Because if not, we got to figure something out. Like, you have to go back to school.
Yeah.
You know, which is something I didn't want to do. But like let's see, you know, kind of shit or get off pot kind of thing. Like, let's figure it out. And so when we talked to Scott, you know, he was just like, and this guy always he's got the voice that everyone knows, even if you don't know. And he's like, yeah, what's up, guys? He's like, well, I did get approached about something. So, you know, and then, so I guess the American Tobacco people had come to him about originally they wanted to relocate Nana's over there.
Okay.
That was their initial idea. And then we, you know, worked together with him and really sitting down and talking with Ashley Christensen for a little bit. She helped put some great kind of perspective on things, and we really have a lot to be thankful for with her and her friendship from it too. She helped us out an awful lot. But same, just, you know, and then talking with Scott and kind of merged and talking to those American Tobacco guys and found something. We all came up with an idea that we thought would fit the space, and we wanted it to be elegant, nice, but approachable at the same time, because you have Durham Performing Arts Center right next door, which is, you know, number 1 for its size in the country. I think number 3 or 4 overall for attendance. And so we're like, we want to be a part of that experience. We want to be that one that you can park, you can come to us, have a meal, then go to a great show and do that. You know, we've been fortunate for that, for sure.
It should be said also, initially it was like, hey, do you guys want this space? We're like, yeah, like, great. And then I don't know how many months later it was like, all right, you're bidding against all these other restaurants for the space too. And we were like, whoa.
Oh, yeah,
bro,
that's
kind of
gets
crazy,
real.
right? Right. And then and we did, and we kind of all said we had known the Goodmans too for a while. I mean, Jim and Barbara Goodman were our regulars for years at the bar at Nana's.
Yeah.
And we knew Michael, and so I mean, it just kind of all
And
worked.
they own
American Tobacco.
but also you'd know them because of the radio stations as well, right?
Right. That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah, so they're
And where the Bulls play, I mean, it's Goodman Field. You
Goodman
know, like
Field.
that's all.
Right.
They kind of own everything the eye can see where we're at, you know,
Yeah.
down there.
and
Hill
and
Valley.
Yeah,
For,
it's just like,
for
yeah.
point of reference too, for listeners that aren't familiar with the downtown Durham area, DPAC, the big performing arts area, like we just mentioned, it's a really beautiful but also fairly new development in that space. American Tobacco Campus has also kind of like gone through like a renaissance with all these like new buildings that have been put in. The aforementioned Angus Barn as Bay 7 just across the street.
Right.
But with that said too, you're like, all right, well, you have to have a viable business that's going to work really well symbiotically with DPAC. You know, you're having all these, like, in a sense, you didn't want it to be like a avant-garde, bizarre, you know, weird, you know, taco shop or I don't know. I don't know. Actually, now that I'm trying to think of bizarre,
A burlesque dancing, theater and dancing.
yeah, I was like, everything I was thinking of, I'm like, no,
Actually
that could work.
sounded
No, that
pretty
could
good.
work.
I was
All
like,
these
yeah,
things could work. Yeah, Brazilian churrascaria, that would be really
Yeah,
cool
that
right
would be
there.
good, yeah.
But anyhow, you opted with a steakhouse. Now, when you think steakhouse, you're thinking of Morton's and you're thinking of, you know,
Ruth Chris.
and all. Which that name really, Ruth's Chris. It's like Jim's Mario's, if any taxi fans from back in the day.
Roots Chris also is Louisiana,
That's
right?
they're from Louisiana people too.
Yeah. So was that did that scratch an itch for you guys in your past? Is this something you're like, yeah, steakhouse, this is what I know, this is what I can do?
I think we know service. We know how to give people an experience. I think that's really what we were focused on for sure, and something that was kind of that higher end because, like we said, being next to the DPAC, and then the steakhouse thing just kind of fit. As we were talking and figuring out different menus and all, it just kind of seemed that we kept slowly getting to a point where, all right, now we're going to be a steakhouse.
Well, I'm going to guess your time in Chicago also influenced that.
That's always good.
Yeah, but one thing that is key element to a steakhouse is wine.
Right.
And for a second, we're going to step away and talk about our friends who provide wine for our show and who provide wine for a lot of our listeners, and that's the Triangle Wine Company. Awesome. And they are not in Durham, at least not yet, but they do have 4 locations all around the Triangle and Southern Pines, Holly Springs, Morrisville, and Cary. These guys are awesome. They have wine selections from all over the world. They have tap rooms in all their locations where you can sit and have amazing beers that they procure for you. They also will deliver if you go to trianglewineco.com. And Max, what if you want a little something off for the holidays?
Yeah, if you want to get a little discount, you can always use the NCFB promo code, both online or in person. You can go to any of their locations and let them know that the gents over at the NCFB podcast sent you and receive at least 10% off, if not maybe even more. Just nudge them a little bit. So if you're listening to this right as it was released, it's Wednesday morning. You have time. Go out to a place like a Triangle Wine Company to figure out what you're going to do with your dinner today or tomorrow, because wine is complicated. There's a lot going on, and if you can just get somebody that knows a little bit about the wine pairing features, then it's really going to help out your entire dinner. We'll get into that too, about how best to pair your Thanksgiving dinner. And it sounds like these two guys kind of know something. I mean, one of them was the bartender of the year 4 out of 5 years. The other was a server out of the year 5 years in a row?
We'll just say every time they
every time
they gave the award.
It's easier to do that. Really.
Yeah.
So go to trianglewineco.com for all of your wine, beer, and cocktail needs, and tell them that we said hello.
Well, and I will say, too, to add another point to the development of the steakhouse, we had one of our other business partners, Tyler Vanderzee, who's our executive chef there. He's from Nebraska, so he had worked with a lot of different beef and things like that.
Oh, nice.
And Scott, his mentor was Jonathan Waxman. Yeah.
I would even say maybe his contemporary, Jonathan Waxman. Scott's going to hear this and be so mad that we said that's his mentor. I'm telling you, it's going to piss him off. It is going to really piss him off.
His good friend,
right. They're great friends. Jonathan Waxman,
that he knew. Jonathan
his great
Waxman.
friend Jonathan Waxman. He called him for advice.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up with this kind of monster grill. The grill that, in fact, fell off the back of a truck and broke Scott's leg.
That grill?
That's the grill.
Yeah, that's the grill that
that
almost
comes
killed
full
Scott.
circle.
Oh, yeah.
So that grill was meant to go to NanaSteak the whole time?
The whole time.
So it was, but like anything.
The restaurant that almost killed Scott Howell.
That's right.
And, he's talking about this grill, and Tyler had been at a place where they did a lot of different, because with Nebraska and beef and all that. So, certainly made sense adding him on as a partner too, and different things, like prime rib and beef. And so we start going, you get a grill and all that stuff, and then it's like, well, now we're going to bid. It's like, well, now the hotel actually has to get done building first. So we were kind of like one of the Durham's worst kept secrets for about 2 years while we're constantly going. And it started almost, I think it was like 5 weeks after we had initially even talked about doing it, that people were coming in. It's like, so when do you guys open?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Which is always a fun thing. You can ask anyone that opens anything, and they're just like, yeah. So it was about 2 weeks is what we kept saying, and we did that for about a year and a half.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Oh, really?
2 weeks.
You said that 10 months ago.
Because at that point, you're like, because you don't know. I don't know. Well, really, it's like that running joke kind of thing. Sean Umstead that opened up Kingfisher. He even has a drink on his menu. I think that's called "When do you open?" Because it's just like it's.
We were asking him forever.
Oh yeah, that's all you get. Man.
Okay, so this is my question about that, especially as lifelong restaurant people. What do you do to make money while you're waiting for the restaurant to open? Are you still picking up shifts in Nana's at that point?
We worked. We had a month where we were not employed, and I think make money is probably too strong.
Yeah, it's a survival mode at that point.
There was.
So
there
what?
wasn't
You're
much
eating
money.
ramen noodles
Well,
every night? I mean,
We
set
tried to
up-
plan ahead a little bit
Yeah.
for it, but even then, it just because it's all just a little longer than you think. It's one of the joys of construction. The next thing you know, it's like, hey, we'll have this done in 3 months. You're like, great, and then you go back in. He's like, who told you 3 months?
right.
Yeah.
That
I didn't
person's
say
an
3
eight.
months.
It's like, I think you told me 3
Yeah,
months. He's
pretty
like,
sure it
that's
was
not
you.
what I said.
I actually walked into Mateo one night, and we had just got done setting up tables, and I think I really had $20. Like that's what I had.
Yeah.
And I just walked in, and this woman was the GM at the time. Her name's Mary. And I just went there, and she's like, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" I was like, "I'm really tired." I was like, "I have $20.
What can that get me?
Just whatever you think I can get, and I still want to be able to leave a tip." She's like, "Oh, just sit down." And I'm telling you, it was the greatest meal I've ever had. They sent out everything. I was sitting in between Mary and Matt Kelly, and they came out just talking, sent out just nonstop. I wanted to get my bill. I didn't have one.
That's amazing.
And they're like, just use the 20 for a tip. And
Yeah.
so, like, when you say, like, Durham takes care of its own, I mean, that's the kind of community that you're a part of. Because really, I was going to go and I just wanted a glass of wine. I was going to have,
like whatever.
Yeah.
Some bread.
And I was
and
just
butter.
like, I just got to get out. Like, I need to, like, my brain's fried. And yeah,
I would say the same thing about the restaurant community around here in general, right? Like, so similarly, around that same time, I took the whole family. I have 2 little boys and my wife, and we went to Jay Betsky's. And I love that place.
It's
And I-
kept secret in town.
Dude,
Yep,
it's
still.
dynamite. I love it. It really is. It's crazy. It's been over 10 years in the place. I mean, you can go in there and find a table. It is criminal because it's delicious.
I know.
It's delicious. So I'm in there and we're all hanging out. And I'm sure that I looked like hammered shit at this point. Like, I'm just so tired. We're getting there at 7 in the morning. I mean, we were leaving at 9. This is one of those days where I left at like 7 to grab everybody and take them out there. And before we go, I'm like, how much can we spend on dinner tonight? We need to think about this because I know that the credit cards don't really have any. I mean, we haven't been working in a month and sort of throwing a bunch of money at this. And I think we decided it was like some number like $91. And I was like, all right, I can do that. So we
Figure
go
that
in
out.
and we might have even splurged. I mean, it might have gone like 96. And John came out and talked, and it's the same question, right? He's like, hey, when is the place open? And I was like, dude, hopefully next. If it doesn't open next week, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. But I think next week. And at the end of the meal, we're kind of waiting around, and I'm like, I got to get these boys to bed. And he comes over and just slides the check over. And I open it up, and it just says, congratulations.
Wow.
And it's that kind
That's
of
the
stuff,
community
man.
taking care of themselves,
You can't beat it. And I still haven't gotten him in the restaurant yet. If I do, I guess
Yeah, style.
I mean, seriously, right? He's going to have to go after it.
But that's a really cool community about. I mean, we are a very tight knit group of people. I think because as service people, right? Whether you're in the kitchen or in the front, it's like you're working for other people at all times, and you're trying to help them out hospitality wise. So when you ever get an opportunity to do that for your own, it's like you almost go above and beyond because it's like that's inherently like that's your thing to give to the world, right? It's like your hospitality and your community. So,
And honestly, it's been paid forward so many times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just you just can't. And if I could ever make someone else feel like he made me feel right, just in that moment, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
that's probably a good time to start talking about Thanksgiving because we're talking about doing things for others and coming together. You guys as family, I take it, I don't know, are you having Thanksgiving together?
Once every other year,
You guys will do.
Well,
Yeah.
so we meet up late. His mother-in-law gets Thanksgiving. It's her holiday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve.
Right. So she gets it. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean she's a nurse over
about Christmas Day?
She's a nurse. Well, we get Christmas Day. We don't leave. We're pajamas Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I get a fire going regardless
In
if
your
it's 80
Christmas
out
jammies.
or
Shout out
40.
to Penn.
Yeah.
I'll
Crank
turn on the air
AC
conditioner and do it.
Yeah.
But Christmas Day is kind of we stay at home. We'll do it. But she she has a lot of different. She does a lot for her kids. I'm very fortunate to have a mother-in-law like that. So
Funny
what'll
that
happen?
You mentioned Penn Holderness just now, Matt, because he literally just texted me this very second.
His ears. He was probably. He's probably got a microphone somewhere in here.
Yeah, he's like, I heard somebody said Christmas jammies.
I need some money. I need some residuals on that.
Well, and that's what. So we'll do the thing where we'll get to go. I go to my mother-in-law's during the day because she's a nurse. She always works. Usually even that night. And she works most holidays, so she works Christmas Day, so when we get to see her. So we kind of have those. But we're going to go over early and then probably stop at his house afterwards. And then I actually speaking of football, the Saints are playing.
That's
are.
20 pounds, and I did not realize that, and I've got tickets to go see Frozen 2 at 7:30, which apparently seems like pretty concrete plans at this point. That
So
I
let's
can't
talk
get
about
out
the
of.
do's and don'ts of Thanksgiving.
Well, we started off with the don'ts pretty clearly, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, see,
It's like, why is he crying on Thanksgiving? Frozen. You must love this movie. It's just
He's
like,
really touched
wow,
by
it's
that movie.
really, look at that.
Yeah,
I'm
can I
just
be
like-
honest though? Like my daughter just started basketball, and I'm as supportive as possible as a dad can be with all of these things. Her game was supposed to be this Sunday, and it was at 3 p.m. And I went, shit. The Raider game starts at 1. That means from the hours of 3 to 4, that's the fourth quarter. That's when the game's going to really be the best.
Oh, are you a Raiders fan?
Turns out
Turns out I could have done whatever I wanted. by the
Turns out
fourth
that
quarter.
game was a real blessing for you going to that basketball game. Would have been
No,
nice.
Christ. I'm
they
sorry about
they
that.
changed the game into a practice, and
Yeah.
so I looked at my daughter. She's like, "Dad, you can stay home and watch the game. It's just a practice." I'm like,
Nice.
okay, I will, and I did, and I kept jonesing then for the practice instead because
Yeah,
the Raiders
so-
got annihilated 34-3 and by Matt's
Go
Jets.
Jets.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Well, and
So-
also so people don't forget too, the Saints just beat the Panthers on Sunday.
Yeah.
With, last second field goal was great.
You do realize this is the North Carolina Food
I
and Beverage
know
podcast,
it's amazing.
and
I
now
just want to
they've
make
shut
sure
it
people
off.
didn't forget. They're that's okay.
Yeah. So, okay, a good don't is to overbook yourself on a Thanksgiving. I think that's what we've figured out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matt's trying to get a turkey bowl football game going on in the morning, and so like if
Yeah.
we do that,
you guys
that's
are
great.
in 9 a.m.
No.
But the
9
idea
a.m.
is like, don't play tackle football if you're out of shape and you're a little getting on in your years, because the worst thing to do is spend Thanksgiving in the emergency room.
Yeah, it's
or
right.
even
Nobody
just
would play-
nursing your twisted ankle or so.
Who plays tackle football without pads after like the age of like maybe 13?
pads.
My brother, who's a crazy person, I told him this whole thing. He goes, "Dude, you know if I was there, I'd play tackle with you guys." I'm like,
Yeah.
"You're 52 years old."
Good job, Phil.
Our brother-in-law wanted to do the same thing. We actually went down for Thanksgiving one year. Maybe it was Christmas, and he built a goalpost in the back.
Like,
or a
no
field
kidding,
goal.
welded. He was
Yeah.
a welder. He welded a giant goalpost, and then we
Wait,
kind of
so like you're
for
gonna have
real.
a pickup football game with field goal?
With
Well,
field
that's what
goal.
he's like. Hey, man, let's do it. He's like, I'll invite all these guys from Lafitte, which is like the Gulf of Mexico. Like, these are some good old Cajun boys.
Yeah.
And he's like,
He's
and we'll just
so
get
excited
together.
when it's
He's like,
like
man, we'll do
third
it. He's
and
like,
long.
we'll play football.
Yeah.
And I was like, this seems super painful. Like, these guys played football in high school and still remember high school. But they've never given up their dream of making it to the NFL. You know what
Listen,
I mean?
I'm like, I could throw myself in that camp, but I mean, I've given up the dream by now because
Yeah.
I'm 42. I mean, Breeze is 42.
That's what I'm saying.
Breeze
They
was
still
40.
haven't. They
But-
think they think
but-
they're about to get that call.
Brady's
Well,
gonna
I'm
go
gonna
to
be
50.
42.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I wouldn't even think of playing tackle football, and like I would love to theoretically, but not somebody, many people will get hurt.
Yeah.
I have a shoulder that likes to pop out of socket.
Yeah.
Like, just
By the
not.
way, but your buddy that has the field goal.
That was our brother-in-law.
Oh,
Yeah.
your brother-in-law. Would he be so dismayed that you score a touchdown and then went for 2?
And I'm welding these field goals for you. What did I just do?
No, you got to know Victor. Victor would just be super excited that we were still playing
Yeah.
football because really, if it were up to him, we would play. It would be 19 quarters. I mean, it would just never stop.
No.
We-
Well, and also
I got to meet Victor.
Oh,
At least
yeah,
he
he's
would
great.
join our turkey.
well,
bowl.
and also not
you
to,
would never have gotten a word in edgewise.
And
in
to
this
go
thing.
back
He just,
Oh,
to
really?
like
yeah,
to this
he's
Panthers
hysterical.
kicker that kept missing all these field goals and extra points.
Oh, my God.
It just shows how hard. I mean, because we're in the backyard kicking him. You're like, wow, man, kicking something from 20. What did he miss? 27 yards at the end. 27. That was hard to do. You know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
the Giants, who
and he kept
I'm
missing
actually
them. So.
even more
You mean
of
the
a
guy
fan
that I
of.
had starting on my fantasy
Yeah,
football?
oh, that sucked.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you miss on that close, you get like a negative 3 or 4 points in our league. So yeah, it was
Oh,
pretty
that's
sweet.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so some of the do's then. Let's talk about Thanksgiving. As two guys that do a steakhouse, obviously you're doing a lot of red meat there. But today for Thanksgiving, you're doing the other white meat, the other white meat, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing a turkey. What's the best way to do a turkey in your house? How are you guys doing it? You baking it? You deep frying it?
I'm doing 2 turkeys. One of them deep fried.
Okay.
I can tell you a big don't. Don't brine your turkey with anything that has sugar in it and then deep fry it. I can
Oh,
show you a
it'll pop,
picture. It's
right?
the funniest thing you've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, I fried it for 35 minutes and it looked like it looked like a caricature of like a burnt, set on fire turkey. It just it takes everything out of it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
almost
really?
like those old like cartoons, like Bugs Bunny, where like someone does a lighter or something, and everything
It
goes
just
up, and then
chars.
it's like the charred remain of it,
Yeah.
and it was exactly that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was
Like,
funny.
Stay away from
crazy.
sugar. That's a
No
good
sugar
thing.
in the brine if you're frying, right? I'm doing a small turkey fried, and then I have this.
You have a deep fryer, or you're doing the thing?
My
in
neighbor
your-
does,
Okay.
and so we just get together. It's just an excuse to hang out and
Yeah.
drink a bunch of beer, and it's awesome. And then I have what sounds like it's going to be about an 18-pound heritage bird
Oh.
that I'm gonna underneath the skin, rub a bunch of garlic butter, and we're gonna brine that too, and then roast it in the oven. It's delicious.
That
it was
sounds awesome.
awesome last year. It was
I
awesome.
kind of think turkey's a little more on the overrated side as far as that goes. I guess if I had to pick, I'd probably go ham. I know. I'm sorry. It's just always kind of. I like dark meat, and I think turkey ends up. Like I get it.
You
I
can
get
get
it.
dark meat.
I know, and I get some. I think turkey
Matt,
for
in
me.
a Jewish household, did you guys ever have the holiday ham?
No,
No, you didn't do the ham.
no.
Yeah, the ham for me was always where it was at.
We do if we do like another meat like this Thanksgiving. I'm gonna aside from the bird do some brisket.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, like I said, I would do prime rib for it, but I understand everyone wants it. And so my wife actually does the same
Prime rib
thing.
is Christmas.
Where she does we brine it, and then she makes a compound butter kind of thing, and then puts it under the skin, and she'll cook it, and it's delicious.
Do you
It's
just get
not my
under
thing.
this? Like you literally just slide your hand
Underneath the
under
skin.
all
Oh,
the
yeah.
way.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
all
yeah.
the way up and just coat it.
Yeah.
Coat
Do you
everything
do the
underneath
outside too?
I also do that. Yes.
And you make a compound like garlic butter before.
it. Mm-hmm. She does an herb butter, and then puts it underneath the skin, cooks it, and it's the only time where I'm really like, all right, I get this turkey thing. Like it's
Because that's when the meat gets stays super moist.
super super juicy. Understand. I guess for me, like I'm not a big cranberry person.
Oh, my
You know
God.
what I mean? Like so,
This is
there's certain
embarrassing.
things, and that,
You're like, what's
No,
the
but if you're
Grinch
gonna
of Thanksgiving?
I
You're
know,
like
well, I don't
you're the-
mind it. I still like
The
Thanksgiving.
Grinch of Thanksgiving is Brad.
I like no. I mean, I like
what's the name for it? You have like
Brad.
Yeah, Brad. Brad
Don't be
Wade.
the Brad of Thanksgiving. And I still I like the plate, with a bunch of different things. I like being able to try different things, and I guess that's the goal of it.
Well, but I'm with you I don't like the out of the can cranberry. Come on, you love yourself a little bit too much. I mean, like don't hate yourself by just opening a can of cranberries and calling it a day. I would, even if they're just frozen cranberries that you just get in a bag, that's fine. But take the cranberries themselves, thaw them down, put them in a saucepan, throw a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of clove, a little bit of mint. You throw some orange juice at the end when you're done, just for some acid, and you're done. And it's so much better than just doing it like.
See, I'd be
a
down for
slop.
that cranberry.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
My
But-
mother-in-law does one that it's cranberries, grated orange, just the zest, right?
You don't have to do
Sugar,
much.
and it is perfect. It's perfect.
See, and it's another thing. But I don't know.
I
I'm
love
not in
Thanksgiving.
gravy
And I love
too.
turkey.
Oh, it just doesn't do it
I
for
love
me. I don't know
everything
why.
It is my favorite
I know.
holiday of the year.
Yeah, me
I
too.
absolutely love it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love it. I can't get enough of it.
Halloween, but
Yeah.
Halloween's
but,
dynamite.
Because Thanksgiving there's football, there's family,
There's food.
and there's great food, and there's no pretense of what you're supposed to do is eat
Right.
and watch football.
Now,
so
it
it's
also-
that's the greatest holiday.
It
there
also
is.
is my wife's birthday this year.
Oh.
Right? So, of course, another thing to be thankful for sure. For sure. I'm really excited.
does it
But-
kind of
Kiss you
suck
happy
though?
birthday.
Kind of
Well-
for her, like.
Well,
my wife's birthday is the day after Christmas, and she, for some weird reason, is delusional and says, "No, I think it's great near there because all the families are all around." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, they're all around for Christmas, not for you." And now you're just like the extra thing we all got to do the next day.
I think it's actually sad that you said for her because I was waiting for him to tell you why it sucked for him that her birthday was on there. Because I thought for sure, and I was like,
I
oh.
would never say that because it doesn't. It does not suck.
You just got to throw her a half birthday 6 months prior because that's then and it's a surprise. Then she doesn't even know it's happening. It's the best way to handle birthdays near holidays.
We just did 9 days in Disney World and got back 2 weeks ago.
So she's done.
So we're
She doesn't get
kind of
anymore.
yeah. I mean, we're kind of just we've got. She requested a special Thanksgiving dessert. I think it was a pumpkin cheesecake that she wants, and there's some. She's also a pescatarian, so turkey for her is
Oh, my God.
right. So none of that. So she loves the sides, though. All the sides are her favorite. I have stuffed artichokes that I make every year. We have, let's see, great grandparents were off the boat Sicilian. On our mom's side. So, I mean, it's the stuffed artichoke recipe where it's like you boil the artichokes and then you stuff them with it's garlic and breadcrumbs and freshly grated Parmesan and then a bunch of olive oil, a little lemon juice, and then you on each leaf right before you right before you steam it, goat cheese kind of around the whole thing. And she'll eat, I'll make 3 or 4 of them, and she'll eat
That sounds
2
pretty,
of them.
That sounds awesome.
They're awesome.
It's
They're so
really
good.
good.
And so that she loves it really just as much as any of us, because it's so many options for it. There's so many different things.
Well, and that's where her and I would probably get along better on, because for me, I'm in it for the sides. You know,
Yeah.
I love Thanksgiving.
Well,
like, don't get me
that's
wrong,
fair.
but I'm just in it. Like, for me, it's
The
like you know
sides.
I love turkey.
I mean, just different things. And our mom always made so many different kind of, we called them dressings, but stuffings and all those things.
One of the sides that I'm going to do this time, I learned while I was in the south of France near the Dordogne River. But it's really awesome and super simple. Take like scalloped potatoes, you can on a mandolin or just slicing really thin, potato gratin, if you will. Slice really, really thin, but then throw in a bunch of cloves of garlic all around, kind of just all through a casserole dish, and then submerge it all in duck fat. And it's a real traditional, like the Dordogne area is where like the birthplace of foie gras. So they do a lot with duck in the area. But I just went to the local grocery store, bought some duck schmaltz or duck fat, and you just throw that in. Don't put any salt. I made a mistake of doing that one time. There's enough salt in duck fat, so don't mess with it. But take a couple herbs if you want as well. Maybe throw like a couple of sprigs of rosemary or so, and then just throw it in the oven and let it bake for however long. Like you can real slow and low for 250 for 4 hours or so while your turkey's going. It is the best thing you will ever eat.
That sounds pretty
good. It's so nice. But we're also going to have some people that need to be heart healthy at our dinner because of you're getting on in years. So another thing that we learned from Chef Bobby McFarland, who helps out here at the kitchen, delicado squash and, in my particular favorite, Fox Forest and Farms mushrooms. But take delicado squash and mushrooms and just roast those together. There is a magic harmony between those two vegetables that just make everything perfect. So if you don't eat meat, or if you are a pescatarian or so, but you want something kind of big and hearty, do that. Just throw them together again. Just throw an herb or two, a little salt, little pepper. Don't do too much. Throw them in the oven. Set it, forget it. But it's really good for your diet.
Nice. Delicado squash and mushrooms.
I have more questions about that. I'll ask
Yeah,
after. I'll ask after the podcast.
We've been going pretty cauliflower heavy lately, to where cauliflower is a base for a lot of different things. We just had last night, my wife did some cauliflower and taco meat, a little cheese on top, and baked it. So I think cauliflower is another good substitution too, if you're going to do, because it gives you that really good texture.
A little starchy.
Yeah, starchy. Yeah. I mean, you get that. It's just, you don't feel like, I don't know, you feel like you're actually biting into something, like for those that don't do the carbs and all those things. And
do you, speaking of carbs, where and how do you make your stuffing? Meaning, do you put the stuffing in the actual bird, like traditional, or do you do your own kind of just casserole style stuffing?
We do both.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
It's funny. I never make the stuffing. It's like one of those things. It's just every other
you
year.
Serve it. You're the best server in town.
I mean, clearly, right? Right.
5 years.
I
running.
never won. I never won best stuffing maker. It wasn't a thing, right? It's just not a thing.
Even if he won that best stuffing,
Right,
he
sure.
probably wouldn't share that.
but and it's one of those things where it's we do both. It's just someone else always makes the stuffing.
Well, and they
kinda
talk about
delegate
now too that
responsibilities.
you're not supposed to
You're
do
not-
the stuffing
right.
in the bird anymore, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
it's unhealthy. You can
Salmonella
get
or whatever.
salmonella.
You get
yeah.
some-
Well,
I don't
which
know.
I think is.
I mean, I'm sure there's something to it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not trying to go, well,
Is it
we
really-
did it as kids, so you can.
Well, it's like the
obviously
beer. It's like the
fine,
beer
but-
can chicken idea, right? Like, I mean, you put the beer can in there. It doesn't really get hot enough to start to really evaporate and steam the inside of the chicken. And if it does, then the outside of the chicken is so hot that it's dry and gross.
It's
So
It's kind of quaint to
Hold
do
on
it.
though. Back to the bird for a second. In terms of brining it, how far in advance do you brine?
it's
At least 24 hours.
At least 24
I think
hours.
we're going to do.
But could you do? You could do 48 hours, really.
I think that's what we're going to
Yeah.
do with ours. We're going to do 48 hours.
Which will be too late
submerged.
for you all by the time you're listening.
But
to
even
this,
then-
but for next year.
so
We've
I'm
also
not.
done. We've also done overnight. I mean, you've done 12 hours. You can do anything. I mean, it's really just to get some kind of thing. Some people are very much for brine. Some people are very much.
My plan
against
is
it.
16 hours.
16 hours.
16 hours on the
Okay.
brine.
Pro brine 16 hours. All right.
Yeah.
Let's think about drinks. One thing that we do at the Trujillo household, Felicia does, which is always just a smart, clever thing to do, is she takes mulling spices that you might have, just for mulled wine or whatever, and she just throws them in a crock pot and sets it and just puts it somewhere in the house. It doesn't have to be in the kitchen, and just sets it. And I one time I asked her, what are you doing? She's like, oh, it's just to fill the house with the scent of mulled spices. It's great. And I didn't think about it, but then when she did it, it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. It's perfect. So a little nuance thing, a little aromatherapy, but that's a good way to get started. I highly recommend. Matt, what do you do cocktail-wise?
I'm maybe become the Brad about this, but that's AK for me. But because
it sounds terrible. It really sounds terrible.
No, because we get so super handsome. We get so into this and think about what's the perfect pairing and honestly I've just become so jaded because the 90% just don't care and they're just going to drink whatever they drink anyway.
Sure.
So I think ultimately what you want to do is drink something refreshing and something that's obviously a catch-all. So I'm thinking this year, and obviously you have champagne's always a good option, but I'm thinking a sweeter red actually, Grenache or Mourvedre from California,
like a Beaujolais or something.
Well, not even Beaujolais, because I think Beaujolais for the all is going to be too gritty and granite and lead pencils and the whole thing. So it's I think something like a California,
yummy. You want a yummy
California, not a lot of acid, something that's maybe got even a little bit of RS because it's just going to catch that cranberry sauce and the gravy and everything. So something like California Grenache, California Mourvedre, something like that. That's super even jammy. I hate to say it, and I'm talking about more for the masses, not for And then also, I think a great pairing across the board is ciders, and we're so big in ciders. So the bubbly, the not so high in alcohol, so you can drink all day and not feel totally drunk, but it's also going to be refreshing and
And those flavors all work with pretty much everything that
with
happens.
everything. And that's the thing about Thanksgiving is so much, as we talked about, so many different flavors on the table that if you're really going to do a pairing, you kind of got to be catch-all.
Well, and I tell you, so 2 years ago we had a bottle of I think it was a Grand Cru Chablis.
Yeah.
That we did with that. And I tell you what, man, I'm going to find it this year and I'm doing it again because I thought I love Chablis anyway. It's I think it's my favorite way to drink Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And it is so good with Thanksgiving.
See, I love the idea of Chablis, but I'm even thinking that Grand Cru is probably not the way to go, only because in Grand Cru you typically see oak. Although it's super high acid still if it's good Chablis. So, but I love the idea of super steely, super high acid, super fresh because again, it's going to keep your palate refreshed after all that.
Well, and I think a lot of this ends up too being the company that you're going to be around, as you said.
So
you know
much,
what I mean, right? So because when I go to my mother-in-law's, no one really drinks. So the first day I showed up, I had 2 bottles of champagne.
More for me.
I had a bottle of white and a bottle of red, and I was going to start. And my wife was just like, let's why don't we just keep that in the car and we'll see. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, what? I was like, this is just what I'm bringing. I was like, everyone else can bring stuff too.
Yeah.
There's 6 of us. I only brought 4 bottles of wine, But so then it kind of turns into what the crowd likes and all. And that's why for me it's become it's just bourbon, you know?
Because everyone likes bourbon for the most part.
Well, even then it's probably just me drinking it.
But what bourbon are you drinking?
It's whatever I can save good throughout the year. I've got some Eagle Rare 17 right now. That's what I'm going to drink. That's my favorite. It's really dealer's choice. It's one of the ones that I would pick out of anything.
Okay.
And it's just I love it. And I've got about a quarter of a bottle of it left right now.
One side note, sorry, just I'll add, Max, I know you got a couple of good pairings. So my wife's family is coming, and again, they're barely drinkers, but so I got a bunch of bottles of pretty decent Moscato that if they don't drink, I'll keep it around because I can have it. I think I got Marchese di Grezi Moscato, which is pretty good, and I got a couple of bottles of Brichetto as well because it's low alcohol. They'll just drink that. It's kind of sweet, and I think that'll be a pleaser for all those.
Yeah, it pleases the masses.
Yeah, and then for me, I got some good stuff.
I think
you.
Let's be honest. The guys that drink, the gals that drink, they know what they're going to drink, and they're going to. So it's for your family members that maybe wouldn't have a cocktail that you want to just give something easy to. I would highly recommend get a bottle of Aperol and some vermouth, and just batch. Just put those two together, and then when somebody wants something, pour a little sparkling, like the Moscato or anything, and just do a spritz. It's super easy. It's low ABV, and it's just easy. You could just sip on those all day long. Grandma would love it. Your Aunt Janice with her ice, throw it in there. That's fine. Like, it's replace the Pinot Grigio for the afternoon. That's kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And also, I like to batch because I have kids, and we all, if you're going to be around kids, it's Thanksgiving. Make a large batch of horchata. It's Mexican cinnamon rice milk, but it's super easy. Anyone can make it. You just basically soak rice over water, throw a couple of cinnamon sticks in there as well. Nice. Overnight, you create basically like a rice milk. Then remove the rice from the milk, strain it, and then pour in real milk. And you can do coconut milk or almond milk if you want to keep it, non-dairy. And then put in sugar, of course, and then throw in some cinnamon, some sugar, and some milk. And that in itself is so delicious. The kids will love it. And then you can pour that over some bourbon later at night for yourself, and you realize you've just totally taken a White Russian type of thing to a whole different level. So,
like the Thanksgiving version of eggnog.
Yeah, I was going to say that it sounds a little more like Christmassy than Thanksgiving, but I guess it'll work for both.
It all
It's holiday feels, all the good feelings.
Oh, and then if you, in keeping with like what I was talking about, my wife does the mulled spices. If you don't want to actually waste a crock pot for just aromatherapy, you can make hot soup, which is what we used to call it at my house. You can take either brandy or rum or even, dare I say, tequila, but you can take some of those kind of spicier liquors and throw some in, get a couple of tea bags like Earl Grey, throw those into a crock pot, take a pat of butter, throw that in there as well, throw some mulled spices like the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the cloves, squeeze a whole lemon in there as well, and then just let that go for the whole day.
Hot toddy.
And you can just ladle it into your
mouth.
little glass, into your mouth. Yeah.
Just right into your mouth.
And it's about doing all the prep in the beginning so that you can just chill for the whole day. That's how I like to go.
Well, and it's a good idea too, because really it's about the smells too, right?
Yeah.
Like so, like
The
when you're
aromas,
getting, it's like when the turkey's in the oven. Even though some of us don't love turkey, it's the smell of it, and you just know, and it's the anticipation, right? And so and it just gives you all the feelings.
By the way, I'm naming my turkey not Brad.
Not because it'll be cool.
Yeah. Or because it'll be flavorful. It'll be a great turkey.
Or if it's super dry and it just sucks, you can be like, oh, man, this turkey's the Brad.
Never been
In keeping with
accused of being super dry.
In keeping with your senses, the other thing that you also want is to hear great sounds. And for me, the greatest sound of all is the sound of football. Like listening to like the Fox opening theme song just makes me realize it's Thanksgiving. Yeah, it sounds like a Christmas song.
It did.
But the worst opening theme song is NBC's, the one they use for like the Olympics and all that. The worst theme song. But Fox is good. ESPN's great.
The Olympics theme song. I can't think of
Can't
what the
think of it now. Yeah.
I
Do
would
that
play
one.
it, but then we'd have to pay for it. And
no, we don't want to do that.
That's not a good thing to do.
Can you hum it? I mean, are we like, no.
Not doing it.
Okay.
All right, let's talk football. We have 3 games. It's important that when you are a husband, a father, a dad, a brother.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to watch these games, but don't overcommit to the football. Enjoy your family, enjoy the times that are happening there, but keep one eye on the screen so you know what's
And don't
going
you
on.
feel like around the fourth quarter, like the people that care start to get closer to the TV and the volume goes up if it's a close game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's figure this out. So we have 3 games in order. We'll just say them real fast, then we'll get into them. You got the Bears and Lions in the morning. Then you got the Bills at Cowboys in Dallas. Always Lions and Cowboys every Thanksgiving. And then at night, you got the old New Orleans Saints playing the Atlanta Falcons for the final course. So starting the first game, Chicago Bears at the Lions. Right now, they are giving the Lions a 1.5.
Oof.
That's what Vegas is giving.
No. It moved then. I think it was only it was just a point
It's a
before.
1.5 as I checked this morning.
Yeah.
I think this is where also the NFL needs to feel pretty fortunate that fantasy football is such a big part of it, because that Lions and Bears game, it's like, holy crap, why would you? I mean, I know it's Thanksgiving, but Jesus Christ.
North Carolina people might
The
care
Lions
because you got
suck.
Trubisky.
They're terrible. Trubisky's
But he's
terrible.
terrible.
He's terrible.
It's just like,
He's so bad.
man. But because of the fantasy implications, that's why I was tuned in and watched the Jags and Tennessee Titans.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where I'm
beast.
dude, I had Fournette going, and I'm just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
They're losing by 20, and it doesn't
who
matter because he
cares?
gave me 36 points.
The brilliance
When
of
I was
fantasy
playing
football, seriously.
against Henry yesterday, I was like, you know what? He's not going to score 50 points. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm up by 51. And he scored like 41 points. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Do I have to worry about this? This is crazy.
Actually, Brad, your pronunciation of the Jacksonville running back leads me to think of a great new cocktail, the Leonard Fernet.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think it's Fournette.
Fournette. Yeah, you're right.
Let's do this. Let's start with
that was poor
this game
Cajun of me too.
Okay.
We'll go around the horn.
and go around the horn, and then we'll one per game.
I'll be quick. I'll start.
Okay.
Bears, Lions. I always will go with the home team when you are talking about Thanksgiving games. The Lions and the Cowboys, for some reason, have always gotten to this game, and I guess we're all kind of fine with it.
It's tradition.
The
Like we eat
Lions
turkey.
are
Sure.
not a good team. Stafford is out, but Patricia seems like he's kind of figured out the defense a little bit, and they kind of have a running game, sort of. I just think that the Bears, even with Khalil Mack, it's not enough. I go Lions. I say it's going to be 21-17 Lions.
That sounded like you missed Khalil Mack on that one, huh?
No, screw it. All right.
All right, Graham, what do you got? Graham, by the way, for those of you listening, has his sheet out.
I
Like,
just
he's
took
prepared.
a few notes.
Yeah.
You know, just
a few notes.
So look, the Lions are since we're doing this with the spread, right? Not
Yeah.
usually how I bet, but they're 0-6 against the spread in the last 6 games.
Wow.
They
Holy shit.
yeah, right. They're 3-7-1 this year. They started off with a tie, which is kind of lame anyway, right? I mean,
Totally.
yeah, the first game was a tie. No Matt Stafford. They've had a lead. They're one of 3 teams ever that have had a lead in all 11 games.
Whoa.
And they've only
And
won
they're 3-7-1.
and they've only won 3 of them. And look, don't get me wrong, the Bears suck. They've got one win that's worth anything, and I think it was against who was it, the Vikings?
Vikings, yeah. And that was early on when Cousins was struggling.
Right. Even against the Giants yesterday, it was
Rosas
like 2
made
missed
2
field
kicks, yeah.
goals, a fumble right there.
Disaster.
But no Matt Stafford. I don't know. I'm feeling the Bears on this one. I'm feeling the Bears
Okay.
to cover.
All right.
Bears. So
I
Graham's
feel
got
like,
the Bears.
first of all, that should we switch rotations? Because I don't know if I should go after all that information. I am not as prepared as that.
That's fine.
Well,
No,
that was a lot
keep
of
it
really
quick.
good stats
Oh,
there.
you want me?
Yeah,
so you want me to go?
it's okay.
That'll
I'm
help
not
you
prepared.
to do
That'll help.
it, right?
Yeah. So Matt Stafford's definitely not playing.
No.
No,
Yeah.
I think he's out for the year.
Oh no, shit, that's awful.
Yeah.
I feel for the Lions. Always have. I think that they're somewhat likable, but they're losers. And as Saints fans, we were very much like that as well for a long time before Breeze and Peyton came along, to where you could almost get there and just always kind of fell short. So I've always had a special place in my heart for the Lions. With that being said, I don't know. I think it's going to be a terrible football game. I think it's just going to be absolutely awful. But I think the least terrible of the two is probably going to be Chicago, is what I would guess, because they have some semblance of more of the, at least, I don't know. You have a quarterback that can somewhat get the ball.
Yeah, they suck. They're not
so
good.
terrible.
They're
But the
not good.
defense, I know they're missing Akeem Hicks, so they're a little easier to run against, but still have a great pass rush. I don't know. The Lions have a really good offensive line. Their wide receivers are super, super talented. I guess I would lean towards Chicago on this, but how about like Chicago on Thanksgiving? Like that needs to happen all the time. Like I don't know why that's not part of it.
It happens somewhat regularly.
Yeah, it seems like a good one. But yeah, so I guess for mine, I'll lay the point, and I'll take Chicago.
You're going to Chicago. Okay. All right.
Weiss, what you got?
I think you guys. I watched the Bears yesterday. They looked awful. Giants should have beat them, and we all know how shitty the Giants are. Rosas missed 2 field goals plus a fumble by our own DJ Jones, Danny Dimes. But y'all are sleeping on Jeff Driscoll, running quarterback, ran for 63 yards yesterday, starting to come up, third starting game, and they only have Khalil Mack. They're missing part of their defensive line. I think he's going to control that. Plus, they got Bo Scarborough, who's up and coming as well. I'm going to take the Lions with the points.
Oh, so the podcast brothers go Lions. The Weddingtons go
We're split.
Chicago.
I like it.
Oh, you took Chicago too?
I did.
Yeah, you guys are both taking
holy crap.
Chicago.
Yeah, how about
Yeah.
that? Good job.
All right.
And he's super prepared. That makes me feel good about it.
Game two, Buffalo Bills at Dallas Cowboys. This could be a game. I think this is, on paper, might be the most exciting game to go. Josh Allen, guy can move. The guy can run, and he has thrown a few times. The Cowboys are going to look to bounce back hard after, I cannot believe they lost to the Patriots. Had it in their hands.
Jason
in
Garrett, man.
That weather.
Frozen
That weather was
frozen
awful.
rain.
Yeah.
It's really tough
Jason
to play in,
Garrett
but-
against Belichick.
But
Freaking
boo-hoo,
Jesus
boo-hoo.
Christ.
You're at the end of the game. All you need is to get a first down, like a couple
Yeah.
first downs.
Terrible.
They couldn't do anything. So they've got to bounce back. I see that they're like not in my house, not on Thanksgiving. I still think that's a big one. But man, I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think they're just going to let it fly. Ultimately, I'm going with the Cowboys. Dak is on a MVP trajectory right now, kind of slyly behind Wilson and Lamar
Jackson,
and what's his name, Deshaun Watson. But I think we'll go there. I think it's high flying. I think it's 35-31. It'll be a good game.
But then you don't take the Cowboys, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just do.
Or are you just going to bet outright?
Are we going against the spread?
I think the Cowboys are going to win,
but not cover.
Oh, but not cover. I think the Bills could win because the Cowboys are starting -7. They're giving 7 points to the Bills.
Wow.
So
a lot of points.
close game. Bills will cover, but I think that the
So technically,
Cowboys
for
will
this for betting purposes, you take the Bills.
correct. Yes, a close one.
7
Nice.
points. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
I don't want to brad this up for you. Do you want to go
That's
first?
awesome.
Come on, Brad's going.
There we go. So I've had Josh Allen in fantasy. He's been on my bench
a
mostly
solid
because
fantasy.
I've got Patrick Mahomes as my starter. But I got to start him this last week against Denver. That's supposed to be this vaunted pass defense, and he actually did a pretty good job against them. I think the Bills have incredible cornerbacks. I think we saw what can just happen to Amari Cooper. I don't know how you trust Jason Garrett for anything. He is just miserable. They actually said the last time that the Cowboys beat a team with a winning record was last year against the Saints. So I don't know. I can just see Jason Garretting this game all up, just sitting on the sideline clapping, kicking a field goal when he should go for it. I think the Bills' pass rush has been really, really good. I think Smith on the offensive line for the Cowboys is just not the same player. I don't know what's going on with him. I think the defensive
he missed
ends,
some time, so he was
I think
hurt.
defensive ends
I think
beat
he's
up,
still
and I think
hurt.
the cornerbacks are good. I think the Bills' defense will be enough. Certainly, I guess if I had to pick a winner, I could see the Cowboys winning, but I think laying 7, I think you'd be crazy not take the Bills.
All right, 2 for the Bills.
I'm just going to outright say I think the Bills are going to win. I think that the Cowboys are 0-4 this year against teams with winning records. They don't typically cover spreads on Thanksgiving anyway. I mean, I don't think they have since 2011. So they play weird on that.
So says your sheet.
Yeah, it's like I don't.
Well, so
think
says
they-
my research.
That's right.
Right? So Josh Allen has been good. He threw 1 pick yesterday, and it was the first pick he's thrown in a month. He's really efficient right now. You've got Tre'Davious White, LSU Tiger. He's a
Go
total
Tigers.
badass, man.
Yeah,
he
is.
shuts down his half of the field. And in that draft class with like Marshawn Lattimore and Tre'Davious White,
Yeah.
seriously, they're both shut down corners. They're both great. I think he's going to take it away, and they're
Which is, by the way, what happened to Amari Cooper yesterday.
Yeah,
right.
Sean
Just
Lattimore
shut-
and Weather.
and it's
and he's a little
or
soft.
Gilmore.
or Gilmore from the Patriots.
Oh,
yeah,
right. Sorry, it was
right. But
Gilmore.
it's the same deal, right? Because it kind of also happened against the Saints.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shut him down.
And then their defensive line is stacked. I mean, it's that the dude from the Panthers, Star Lattimore. He's over there, and you've got Jerry Hughes,
Star Toliolo.
Yeah.
that guy, right?
Yeah.
You got Jerry Hughes. I mean, you've got that big
On that
giant
first-round
kid
pick
Ed
that they
Oliver.
had, Ed Oliver, he's a monster.
I mean, so to me, this is where you can establish a running game. I think they're going to shut down the run, and then I think you take away their best wide receiver, and the next thing you know, it's. I mean, I think they're going to win. I think the Bills
So
win.
you're taking the Bills outright. All
Yeah.
right. So I think the Cowboys are going to find a way to win that game. What you said just made me nervous because I watched that Viking-Cowboys game, and the Vikings just destroyed the Cowboys' defensive
Yeah.
line. I mean, they ran all over them. I somehow think, though, they're playing at home. They're playing for their playoff lives. Bills are going to find a way to pull it out, but I agree that they're not going to cover, so I'm taking the Bills.
The Bills murdered, it should be said, the Bills murdered Denver yesterday, who gave the week before.
Minnesota.
They gave
hard-
Minnesota
yeah,
everything they wanted.
They should have won that game.
And,
It was a pass.
Last week
And they
doesn't count because everything that happened last week was just BS.
yeah. Well,
Look, I'm telling you, man, they handled Denver. Like, Denver looked.
I'm so glad the Saints beat the Panthers. This would have been a terrible podcast
this
for
would've
them.
been
All right.
Yeah.
What's the line on this game? Saints
So-
at Falcons.
Saints
Your
at
guys'
Falcons, they are giving the Falcons 5.5 points, meaning the Saints are favored to win
Sure.
by 5.5. I mean, I can't. I can't go against the Saints sitting across from these two guys right here. But also, as Matt didn't realize, the Saints are my NFC team. I actually own a Saints hat.
Oh, there you go.
And I enjoy watching the Saints. I really am
Know the guy for 15 years. All of a sudden, Saints fan. Never heard of before.
I'm more of a Drew Brees fan, like I was saying when Bridgewater was playing. I was like, he's just like any other team I have no connection to. So I think it's more I'm a Brees fan because he's a cool dude. But I mean, the Falcons can put up points any day of the week. Matt Ryan is having actually a good season, and if they can figure out a run game, Devonta Freeman has just kind of been nowhere for most of the season. But now they have multiplayers like was it Ito and what's the other dude that's come on?
No, both
strong?
Ito and Freeman are hurt, but Brian Hill, and then who's the guy that scored a touchdown yesterday?
Yeah,
but basically they have a
Julio.
nice stable of running backs that they can lean on, and Julio can do whatever. All that said, you're not taking the Saints down. They are big game. They're a big game team. They rarely lose on Monday nights and in big games. This is the whole team. The whole family's gonna be watching this as the late night game. I got Saints covering. I think they're gonna handle them, and I don't see a lot of offense coming out of the Falcons. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think Saints by like 20.
Whoa.
I think running back wise, the Saints have the longest streak right now of not allowing a 100-yard rusher in the NFL. I think that it's 43 games.
Wow.
It's been years. They just don't do it. Even C-Mac yesterday had 64 yards rushing. I mean, he had some yards receiving. I think that we get Marshawn Lattimore back. He's been injured with a hamstring. I think that he does a great job on Julio. And I think this is a revenge game, man. We played the Falcons a couple weeks ago, and that game was an abomination. It was total garbage. We hadn't lost a game in forever. I think we're going to beat the crap out of the Falcons. I think we're just going to smoke them. In Atlanta, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think same thing. I think we kind of reverted back to a little bit of garbage and let our foot off the gas even this past week in our victory over the Panthers. That we had.
Would you love when a guy says "our" because like
I've invested.
We've spent so much money at this point.
We've gone to training
gear
camps. I mean, we haven't participated in them, but we were cheering on the sidelines. I feel like
I
at
put
this
my hamstring
point,
walking up that hill in
for
Greenbrier.
sure. Yeah, it's really exhausting watching
DL
all that
for a weekend.
Yeah, we were there for 3 days. I mean, going to those early practices after drinking all night before, that was tough to do.
Yeah, it's like a job.
But definitely yeah. I mean, I think, Saints are in kind of a funny place because we've got no Armstead, our left tackle. He's going to be out. Falcons just did a bunch of moves, but I think they showed who they are against the Bucs this past week and knocked me out of my freaking Survivor League. I think the Saints are going to just beat the crap out of them. I think they're going to go in. I mean, it's always close. It's a division game. Can't sell Matt Ryan super, super short and all that. I just think this one to me has just got a different feel from it. I think there's just some anger and resentment there after what they did last time. I think they come out and punch them in the mouth.
Me.
All right.
Why?
So you got Saints. All right. So this is the game changer right here.
I'm already mad.
This is where we really make the difference because as much as I would like the Saints to win and I'm rooting for them, they've been a little dicey, and especially in these big primetime games coming off of Thursday at the Falcons. This is going to be like the Falcons Super Bowl, who've been playing well of late but have no chance to go anywhere. They got Julio, Calvin Ridley, maybe Austin Hooper comes back for a little added advantage. I think the Saints are going to win, but I think the Saints are only going to win by maybe 2-3 points, so I'm taking the Falcons to cover.
There you go.
Oh, huge.
They took Saints victory.
As long as we get a Saints win out of it, I'm all right with that.
Right.
All right, gents, before you get out of here, and for our listeners at home, too, we have an awesome sponsor that kind of puts a few things together. They put ice cream and alcohol inside one container. It's Proof Alcohol Ice Cream coming out of Columbia, South Carolina, and it's really a brilliant dish. This is perfect to finish your Thanksgiving dinner, just with a little scoop here and there. And if the kids are screaming and yelling, just give them a little. Just give them a little
Have some ice cream. You want some sleepy time ice cream?
Why is Johnny passed out over here? Oh, it must be the tryptophan.
It's the opposite of a sugar rush going on right now.
But before you get out of here, I'll let you select as you walk out. We have in the kitchen a Proof ice cream freezer filled with coconut rum. We have bourbon caramel. We have a strawberry moonshine and the brand new apple pie moonshine that just came out. So take some for the family.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Enjoy it on your way home. Go to proofalcoholicecream.com, or you can also go to Triangle Wine Company because they sell it at the Triangle Wine Company. So with that said, thank you very much. Matt, what else you got?
Well, everybody out there, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Go to NanaSteak after Thanksgiving. someday after, you will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B Podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.